Hi everyone, welcome back to Math with Mitchell. Today I want to cover sort of linear equations and what that means. What's the difference between a linear equation and something like a quadratic equation? So as you can see right here, I sort of have a generic form of a linear equation, which is y equals mx plus b. Remember this is pretty important and it will come in later in math. But for now, I'm just going to give you an intro of what is a linear equation and why it's a linear equation. So the big thing to notice is the x right here. So that's going to tell you whether it's a linear equation or not, because a quadratic is here. My system's lagging out here, sorry. Is in the form of y equals x squared. So the big difference is that this is really x to the 1 and this is x squared. So the x to the 1 term is just gonna make the graph linear. So if we were to graph something like y equals 2x plus 1, let's look something like this. We have our 2D plane with our x-axis and our y-axis. And if we're going to create some units here, this would be 1, 2, 1, 2, and this would be 1 and 2 in the negative direction. So how we graph a linear equation, we'll talk about that later, but for now I'm going to tell you what each part means of the linear equation, and we'll go over graphing again in another video. But the 1, or the b in this case, which is very important, is going to be your y-intercept. Because if x was equal to 0, then y would be equal to 1. So that's a great way to start graphing. And then the 2 is going to be your slope. So m equals to slope. That's also a very important term to know, is slope, which is rise over run. And so if we were going to graph that, it would be you go up 2, so actually 3, you go up 2 and over 1, because the rise is 2 and then the run is 1. Then line would look something like that. So notice how it's a straight line. That's also another characteristic of a linear equation, is that it's going to be a straight line, whereas something like a quadratic is going to be in the shape of a U. But we'll talk about quadratics, we'll probably talk about quadratics in algebra too. So you can look at those videos if you're interested. But linear equations is all you have to worry about for algebra 1. And the key characteristics is that it's in the form of y equals x, and both y and x have to the power of 1, whereas something like quadratic has x to the power of 2. So both y and x are in the power of 1, and it has characteristics of b and m. That b and m can be in different forms, but if it has x equals y in some form, it is a characteristic of a linear equation. And also if it's graphed, then the linear equation will look like a straight line. Now also beware of equations that have y equals to 1 over x. This is not a linear equation, and just be careful. We'll talk about that later, probably in algebra 2 again, but this is not a linear equation. This is a linear equation.